Hey guys, we got some sheet metal work coming up on the channel in the not too distant future. Let's work on our sheet metal banging skills and see if we can make some simulated parts. Thanks for watching. Recently, one of the bigger names in our little corner of YouTube in the home workshop space was working on some sheet metal stuff. He was making some sheet metal body parts for a truck that he's working on. And while he had a lot of good information in his video, he did leave a few things out. So I decided, hey, why not take advantage of that and fill a little bit of the empty space. I've got a bunch of tools here. I don't, at the moment, have a project that I need a piece of sheet metal for, but I do have something in mind that should be coming up on the channel sometime in the next 6 months or so. Check out my recent community post and let me know what you think. Let's go over some tools. We've got a couple of scraps of tin or steel that I picked up at the local hardware store. They're what they call body panel or body repair panels, but they're just pieces of steel. Don't think that's a painted finish on there. It's just kind of a matte silver kind of a finish. Some of the other tools we've got on the go, we've got a shrinker. You can see the arrows when you pull on the handle. I don't know how well it's showing up for you, but in there's a die that will pull the metal together and slightly shrink it. Likewise, we have a stretcher. As we open it, I don't know how well that shows up, but as the die grabs the metal, it spreads apart and it slightly stretches the metal. You can create nice curved flanges using that technique. A file. I've already filed these, but they did have a sharp edge on them. It's a little sharp there, where they'd been sheared off by the manufacturer. That's a cutting hazard for your hand, as well as you can create a stress riser or someplace where a crack can start. Different hammers, ball peen hammer. I'm not sure if this is a dead blow. Doesn't sound like it's got a rattle in it, so I don't think that's a dead blow. It's just a hammer that I got. I think that came from Harbor Freight. This one, you can kind of hear there's almost like a rattle, and that's a dead blow. It's got a brass head on it, so we don't want to beat on that too hard. And then a soft plastic head, and that keeps the weight in there, the sand or shot or whatever it is, tends to keep the hammer from bouncing. We've got a straight and left cutting snip, so it's mostly straight, curve to the left. Red gives you cutting to the right, and yellow gives you cutting straight. This is a more for cutting a corner. You see how it's kind of got a spoon that sticks out the side. It's much wider. This one is designed for basically, call it a zero throat kind of a cutting, and it allows you to cut like the full length. We'll use this when we cut off our angles from the sheet metal here. Here we have a doming punch and block set. You see this block has several different domes cut in it. And then we have several different sizes of punch. And what that'll allow us to do is basically make a dome, or we can also use it for putting a bead. And here we've got the English wheel. And this is kind of what made me think about the video today. I've got this, and this was a cheap, super cheap English wheel. I forget what I paid for. It was about $100 or something like that. I think it was on sale. Definitely it is bottom rung of the English wheel world. Pretty much the minimum capacity machine that you're going to get. However, it's a good place to start. You know, why spend $500 buying yourself a big fancy English wheel if you're not ever going to use it? So we'll go over this and explain how it works. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to play with the shrinker and stretcher. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the camera and I'm just going to take a couple of strips off of this, and I'll show you how we can make an L angle out of it, and then we'll play with the shrinker and stretcher, show you how that works. Of course, this is going to be a bit of a challenge to do one-handed. I've lined up the edge of the sheet with the 2-inch mark here, just because that way you're not dealing with the little tab at the end. And we're going to go with a 1-inch flange and a 1-inch flange. So we'll mark at 4 inches, or because we're offsetting it by 2 inches. Using this technique, we absolutely positively need to make sure there's no sharp edges here. We're going to put a finger on the edge of the sheet. I don't know how that shows. I got my little finger resting. Put the marker on the sheet, and let me just run down. Using that technique, you don't have to measure in 2 spots and use a straight edge. In this length of cut, is it really a big deal? Not really. But when you're cutting 4-foot long stretches, it's much easier just to do it this way. That's about as wide as I'd want to use the finger offset method for. There was a plastic divider that I had when I was building airplanes that could go out a little bit further, but again, I found the finger was just easier to use. Let's cut this off. Put a weight on it. Of course, I would normally do this two-handed, but can't hold the camera and cut two-handed at the same time. When you're cutting with snips, you don't want to cut all the way to the tip. You don't want to let the snips close. And you'll see we're getting some distortion of that edge, which we'll have to try and clean up. And yeah, I know that wasn't the perfect cut, but I was doing it one-handed. Give me a break. I know it's a carpentry vise, not a sheet metal vise, but it'll do. That's what's on the table. I'm going to put you guys down. You kind of get the gist of what we're doing here. I need 2 hands to finish cleaning up the edge on that sheet, and then I'll show you how we're going to bend it. Here's our strip of metal, basically cleaned up. Yeah, I know, still not perfect there, not a problem. But I've marked 2 spots on the sheet at 1 inch, basically halfway across. And we're going to take and clamp this to the table. But I'm going to put you guys on a stand because I'll need 2 hands to do that. And then I'll show you how we're going to bend it. We're going to take the sheet, kind of stick it halfway out off the edge of the bench, and we're going to put a 2x4 on here. Kind of get it essentially split in the difference. Take some big heavy clamps. Now, if we wanted to have the radius, like what's on the edge of the bench, in the piece, we would bend it down. If we want a fairly sharp edge on it, we would bend it up. I want a fairly sharp edge. So we've got our dead blow hammer. And we just work our way back and forth here. And there we are. Now we're a little bit to one side, but that's all right. That's kind of what I was aiming for. If we wanted the perfect L angle, we could take a little slice off of here and make it that way. Notice we've still got a bit of a radius. You know, we're just using the edge of the 2x4, so whatever edge we get off of that. If we had gone around this, we would have a far sharper. If we'd used a piece of angle iron instead of the 2x4 as our clamping block, we probably could have got a little sharper edge put in this. But this is basically what I was looking for. But what I want this for is to play with the shrinker and stretcher. Let me get you guys set up on the other side of the table, and we'll take a look and see if we can make this thing work. I cut out a second angle while I was moving things over here. And what we've got as a simulated repair is we're going to be replacing the lip of a wheel. And we're going to start off with the two-dimensional repair, where we're going to come up and around the top of the wheel well. And this is going to be a the flat body panel followed by a flange that gives you your lip of your wheel well. We'll make one panel that's basically going to be like this. Go up around this corner, and then we'll make the other panel that is going to go this way. And to do that, we're going to use the shrinker and stretcher. So here's our piece, and it is going to end up going around the bottom lip of the wheel well. Normally we would have these shrinker stretcher bolted to a stand, and I do plan on doing that. But for now, we'll just use it in the vise here. And we'll go back and forth. Not seeing any wave in that yet, but we'll keep going. Not getting much of a bow to that yet. I don't know whether you guys can see that or not. And I'm just, I'll do a little time lapse here, let you listen to some music, and I'll just keep working back and forth on this, and we'll see if we can get it to bend. Well, there's our first piece. This is not an ideal setup. I'm having a hard time getting enough leverage on the shrinker. This took forever, and it's kind of a little bit chewed up here. Nothing that you couldn't go over with some 80 grit and clean right up, no problem. But you can see this is definitely no longer straight. And let me take you guys off the stand and I'll show you what it looks like on our little rough sketch. And you can see, keep in mind this marker line was just an arbitrary thing that I grabbed. But right now we would have a patch panel that could tie into the flat bottom of the fender, go around the lower kick panel and come up to, about here. And we could cut this off and then we'll play with this. Basically, the stretcher is going to do pretty much the same thing except the opposite direction. And I'm going to take a crack at that without recording it. And I'll bring you guys back when I've got the other part of this equation kind of sort of roughed out. See you in a few minutes for me and right away for you. That went together quick. Let me trim this off here. I made some notes while I was working on it. But let me trim this off here and trim this one off at the matching point, and then we'll lay it on the template and see how it looks. There we go. There's our patch panel. Little gap. It's not laying quite in there. Just a bit more trimming would make that fit better. But definitely we've got our wheel arch laid out, and that's something that we could use as the beginning of a wheel well repair. Now you say, well, wait a second, cars typically don't have flat sides except maybe for a Jeep. Well, I drive a Jeep, so if this were to repair my Jeep, I guess we would say that that's valid. But the other thing you can do too, though, if you needed this to curve in, if it was kind of a three-dimensional shape to it, just shrink the other flange and it would kick in, or stretch it and it would kick out. Likewise up here, if you had a bit of a bow to the fender, you would just put some shrinking or stretching in the wheel arch as appropriate. I'd call that a success. This was just a quick little, hey, let's give it a try and see how it works. Well guys, I think this is a logical place to end this video. It's gotten a little bit on the long side, much longer than I thought it was going to when I was shooting it. Check back next week for part 2 when we go through the remaining tools that I'd mentioned at the beginning of the video, showing you how they work. If you got this far in the video, can you give me one of those thumb up things and consider subscribing to the channel, maybe ring that bell icon, and if you want to support what I'm doing in a more direct manner, there's always links to my merch store down below the video. Thanks a lot for stopping by, and we'll catch you in the next mess.